Hello, and welcome to Character Forge. My name is Tyler Owens. I'll be your character smith. Joining me once more is my lovely wife Leigh, who will be our character artist. Today we're going to be building a male dwarf. One of the first things that's usually assumed when building a player character is that the character will, in one way or another, be a hero. Sometimes you stick an anti on the front of that. Sometimes you'll have a player who finds a way to work an evil character into a good party. Sometimes you'll run an entire party of evil characters. But, generally you assume that the characters are going to be good. This got me thinking, though, about making an evil character for the show. Then I realized that if I made the character a high enough level, I could actually use this character as a villain in a campaign, since I run more games than I play in.
Oh, great.
So we're going to be building a level 20 barbarian.
Oh, great.
Dunardane Omenborn is the 20th with his name. For 20 generations, the Omenborn clan, led ever by Dunardane, has been seeking world domination. It began with the first Dunardane, a barbarian who only managed to gain control of his own clan before being slain. His son, a barbarian guided by the spirit of his father, managed to unite 3 clans under his rule. By the fourth Dunardane, the dwarven clans were united under the barbarian king and the spirits of his ancestors. The 10th Dunardane, with the spirits of his ancestors, managed to conquer several countries before being brought down. The 17th conquered 3 continents. The 19th sieged the last bastion of freedom for 10 years before barely being overthrown by a band of epic heroes. The world dreaded the rise of the 20th Dunardane, who validated their fears when he fulfilled his ancestors' desire for total world domination. His brutal reign has lasted 20 years now. Let's get right into things. First, let's roll up stats. Let's see. That's a 16, an 11, a 13, a 16, a 10, and another 16. How's that for consistency? Let's see. There aren't any negative modifiers here, but I'm fine with that, honestly. It's one thing to have the table rule that characters always have to have one negative stat, but I mean, this is a villain. Being beefed up a bit makes sense.
Screw you, man.
Let's see. We're going to be a mountain dwarf, so that gives us +2 strength and +2 constitution. And then we also get +4 strength and +4 constitution. And the caps to these stats increase to 24 as a level 20 barbarian. And we have 5 ability score increases, although we're going to use one of those for a feat. With all of that in mind, Dunardane's final stats will be Strength 24, Dexterity 20, Constitution 24, Intelligence 11, Wisdom 10, Charisma 13. So he is a big, beefy guy. Let's see. We're going to choose the soldier background. That's what makes sense for this guy, being, a world-conquering warlord. This gives us proficiency in athletics and intimidation. And from the barbarian skill list, I think we're going to take perception and survival. Let's go ahead and figure out his health. He's a barbarian and he's level 20. Let's just roll up his health. So in addition to the 12 we get at first level and the 140 we get from our Constitution modifier, we get, and I'm going to roll 3 d12s at a time. We have 3 d12s, and I don't want to sit here and roll one die 19 times. So I'm just going to roll these 3 6.
Lame.
I'm going to roll these 3 6 times and then roll one more on top. A 10, and an 8. Off to a good above average start. 9 and 2 11s. 2 12s and an 8. Wow, I'm rolling really well for this guy's health. A 2, a 10, and a 9. Let's see. 12, 8, and 7. 2 12s and an 8. And a 10. Wow, okay, yeah, that was a really good set of rolls for health. I mean, really good for him, not so much for the player characters. Let's see, put that in a calculator because I don't want to mess this up. If I've entered it in all correctly, that's 181 hit points from the roll, which gives us a total of 333 HP. Not bad at all for a level 20 Barbarian. I mean, not bad for the Barbarian, it is bad for the players. Especially because of Rage. At first level, we get the ability to Rage. As long as we're not wearing heavy armor, we can use a bonus action to Rage, which gives us advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. It also makes it so that when we make a weapon attack using strength, we deal 4 extra damage. And importantly, we have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, which means that effectively we have double the 333 hit points, which means that we kind of have 666 hit points, which is kind of hilarious.
I mean, yeah, but also if you're basing elemental damage...
Yeah, and it's not perfect, but it's just kind of... Let me have my fun!
No.
Let's see. Also at first level, we get the unarmored defense ability. This allows us to have an armor class of 10 plus dexterity modifier plus constitution modifier when we're not wearing armor. Normally if you're not wearing armor, it's just 10 plus dex. So barbarians can add their constitution, which gives Dunardane an AC of 22. Let's see. At second level, we get Reckless Attack. This allows us to get advantage on all attack rolls we make until the end of our turn, at the expense of giving everybody who attacks us advantage. Usually this is actually a fairly good trade-off for a Barbarian. I mean, with how much health they have, it's usually worth it to give everybody who attacks you advantage just to be able to swing harder with your own attacks. At second level, we also get Danger Sense. This gives us advantage on any dexterity saving throws that we make against a source that we can see. So like if there's an arrow trap shooting arrows at us, or if there's like a mage who's shooting a fireball at us, we have advantage on those dexterity saving throws. At third level, we get our Primal Path. Because that's in a different book than the one I'm using right now, we're going to save all those for later. Let's see. Fourth level, we get our first ability score increase. We'll talk about the one feat that we're taking here. We're going to take Great Weapon Master, which we've taken it before on the show and we've talked about it. But as a little refresher, it lets us trade 5 to hit for 10 damage. So we are less likely to hit, but we do more damage if we do hit, which for a barbarian is fine because you're reckless attacking, so you have advantage, and it usually works out pretty well. It also, Great Weapon Master, lets us take another attack as a bonus action when we score a critical hit or reduce an enemy to 0. So that's our feat. All of the other ability score increases are just going to be the ability score increases getting us to the numbers I already mentioned. At 5th level, we get extra attack, so we can attack twice whenever we take the attack action. We also get the fast movement feature. That just gives us plus 10 feet of movement per round, which will help out because we're a dwarf. Dwarves are short and I'm pretty sure dwarves only get 25 feet of movement normally, if I'm remembering correctly.
I thought that was only gnomes and halflings.
Maybe I'm not. Anyway, 10 extra feet of movement. It's always nice.
Hey, if you normally get 30, then it's nice to be faster so that if your party is letting a different party member piss you off, you can skulk ahead of them.
Not that there's any
I'm not angry, what?
Let's see. At 7th level, we get Feral Instinct, which gives us advantage on initiative rolls. It also nullifies the surprised condition if we immediately rage on that turn. So normally, when you're surprised, you have the surprise condition. On your turn, you don't get to do anything, and then the surprise condition is gone. So like you essentially skip your first turn in combat when you're surprised. With Feral Instinct, if we're surprised, as long as the first thing we do on our turn is rage, we can rage, or we can still take our first turn. Let's see.
Well, and that's pretty natural for a barbarian to want to rage if he's taken by surprise.
Yeah. At 9th, 13th, and 17th levels, we get the Brutal Criticals feature. What Brutal Criticals does at 17th level is it gives us 3 additional damage dice when we score a critical hit. That means that if we score a critical hit with our Great Axe that does a d12 damage, we'd be doing 12 damage from maxing out the damage die for the regular attack, plus 7 damage from our strength score, plus 4 damage from raging, plus 10 damage from the Great Weapon Master switching hit to hit to damage, plus, instead of just 1d12, 4d12. That's a total of up to 81 damage on a crit.
Why are you doing this?
This is a final boss. It's supposed to be hard.
There's an exchange of looks going on.
Let's see. At 11th level, we get Relentless Rage. While we are raging, if we drop to 0 hit points and aren't killed outright, then we can make a Constitution saving throw to remain at 1 hit point. It begins at a DC of 10, and that DC increases by 5 each time we use this within a single rest. With our plus 13 to Constitution saving throws, as long as we don't critically fail, we're guaranteed to pass the first 2 checks. The next 2 checks are also fairly easy. We just need a 7 for the 3rd check and a 12 for the 4th. The 5th check, we would need to roll a 17 or higher on the die, which is conceivable. After that point, the 6th attempt, we just automatically fail. There's nothing we can do on it, unless I guess we critically succeed. So, because we have so much health, they would have to do 138 points of damage in one attack to outright kill us. And if they're using a damage that we're resistant to, they'd have to do 336 damage in a single attack. So we're likely to always get the chance to roll for this Constitution saving throw. So you kind of have like, you know, at least 3 times have to kill us, but you know, likely up to 5 times that you have to get us down to 0 HP to actually get us down. There are ways that you could get around that, and here's the thing. I trust Leigh not to like metagame in my games, so
I'm already thinking of my own ways to get around it anyway.
Yeah,
so.
But you know, part of this is that this only works when you're raging, and if you fall unconscious, you are no longer raging. So if you do something like, say, the sleep spell, which which handles creatures based on their HP. If we're down to 1 HP because we've just survived death with this feature, and the wizard casts sleep on you, you lose your rage, and then it's just 1 HP that somebody has to get down. So, I mean, there are ways around it. But, I mean, the point is, Dunardane is a hard bastard to kill.
Apparently he doesn't like gnomes.
He doesn't like gnomes?
Yeah, because he's using one as a footstool.
Oh, well, that makes sense. At 15th level, we get our rage improves so that we only drop out of rage if we choose to or if we fall unconscious. I was actually in a game I was running this past week. There was a barbarian enemy that a couple of the PCs were fighting in an arena.
Gosh, freaking that barbarian. 10 hit points off from killing it, guys. Well, defeating him.
Yeah. So the monk had the idea that he was faster than this barbarian, so he was gonna, try and just run away to to force the barbarian to get out of rage. Well, if the barbarian is at least 15th level, then running away doesn't matter. Now, normally you drop out of rage if you haven't dealt or taken damage since your last turn. So, normally running away from a barbarian for a little bit is a really good way to get them out of rage, so that then you can, approach and attack them. But once you hit level 15 as a barbarian, you only drop out of rage if you fall unconscious or if you choose to. So running away doesn't help anymore.
That's awesome.
Let's see. At 18th level, we get Indomitable Might. This allows us to just use our strength score of 24 as the result of a strength check if our roll is less than that. So once we hit level 18 as a barbarian, if we ever roll less than 24, we can just choose to use 24 as our result. So that's pretty neat. Let's see, we already talked about how at level 20 we get the feature that gives us +4 strength and +4 constitution, and also increases our caps for those two stats accordingly. What we also get at level 20, is normally you only have a certain number of rages per day. When you hit level 20 as a barbarian, you have unlimited rages per day. You can just rage all the time.
Oh. It's because they get internet access.
Oh yeah, that's probably it. Okay, so now that we've done all the generic barbarian stuff, let's talk about our primal path. So for our primal path, it would be really mechanically tempting to choose the path of the Totem Warrior, because at 3rd level, the path of the Totem Warrior, if you choose the Bear, gives you resistance to all damage except psychic. So then it really would be like our health was actually 666, just with weakness to psychic damage. So, as tempting as that is, I've already decided on something else, as you might know from the backstory if you're familiar with all of the different options for barbarians. I've chosen the path of the Ancestral Guardian from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. At 3rd level, we get the Ancestral Protectors feature. This gives the first creature that we hit each turn disadvantage on any attack that does not target us. So, we hit something, the first creature we hit then has disadvantage on any attack that's not against us. Further, if that creature still hits anyway, if it hits one of a different creature besides us anyway, even with the disadvantage, then the target that's being hit gets resistance to all of that damage. So, they have disadvantage to hit, and if they do hit, they only do half damage. At 6th level, our spirits allow us to reduce the damage against a creature, to reduce the damage that a creature within 30 feet of us takes by 4d6 when we use our... Let me phrase that better. When a creature within 30 feet of us takes damage, we can use our reaction to reduce that damage by 4d6. That's the smart way to say that.
He's got an intelligence and wisdom of 11 and 12 and 10, so it's okay if you don't say it the smart way.
Yeah. At 10th level, we can commune with our spirits, which mechanically lets us cast the augury or clairvoyance spell once per rest. So we can get some knowledge from our 19 Dunardane ancestors that are following us around.
Don't stand in front of cannons. You get cannonball wounds that way. That's canon now. Oh, that was a pun and I didn't even mean it.
And finally, at 14th level, when we use the feature that we got at 6th level to reduce the damage another creature takes, we can also deal an amount of force damage to the attacker that's equal to the damage that we reduced. So basically, the spirits that are protecting people are like, hey, how dare you attack this person? I slap you now with my spirit.
Did you just try to hit my son? So basically, this path is the path of my dad's gonna beat you up.
But the thing is it's not, did you just try and hit my son? Because all of these abilities are only helpful to other people. This is kind of a tank barbarian build. Where you're reducing damage to your party members.
Also, my dad's gonna beat you up.
Yeah. Now, these abilities, with all of this, they're not actually very useful, meaning the primal path abilities are not really very useful for a single creature fight, because, all the abilities are, for defending other people. But Dunardane is the overlord of this world. He's going to have soldiers with him in the final battle. And this is not just because I'm trying to justify the features of that I've given him in his class. Just as a little aside here, for people who are wanting to be DMs, adding in soldiers to the fight is going to be necessary for balancing it, because 5th edition D&D really, really is not designed for villains who have levels in PC classes. There are some monsters in the monster manual that are like, orc barbarian or something that's like they've made a monster stat block for a creature that basically has a player character class, but they're not exactly the same. And just monster stat blocks work differently in some ways than character sheets and the way player characters are built. So if you just build a character who has a player character class, they don't really have a well-defined challenge rating. It's kind of hard, unless you've been doing it for a while, to judge how hard they'll actually be to fight. A level 20 character is really strong, but in my experience, and I don't have experience with throwing level 20 characters at my players yet, but from lower levels, even being 4 or 5 levels higher than the party, if the party is 4 or 5 people, isn't actually all that hard because of how hit points scale and just sheer numbers. So they don't really have a clearly defined challenge rating. I mean, the whole challenge rating system is a little iffy anyway, but that's a discussion for another time. The point is, even a level 20 character that you're built, if they're not a spellcaster, because 9th level spells are ridiculous.
Yeah, they really are.
As long as you're not building a spellcaster, even high-level player character classes, NPCs, it's not going to be as hard of a fight as you think it is. So you're going to want to throw in some, challenge rating appropriate for the party monsters to fight with this player character villain.
I'm gonna say level 5. Yep, that sounds good. Yep.
What?
Yep. There's his army. See, look.
Oh, okay.
Level 5.
And with that, we are done building Dunardane, ruler of the world and final boss for a sometime in the future campaign.
Oh no.
Thanks to Leigh for drawing him for us. You can follow her on Instagram at Ree the Wordsmith, or you can read her webcomic at monochromcomic.com.
If I put X's over his eyes, do I win?
No.
Oh.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to like, comment, tell your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode where we build a ranger who thinks with portals. Until then, keep those forges lit.